I'll share my screen, Mark.
Good to go, good to go. Thanks.
Hi everyone, great to do a talk tonight. My record of doing it, most people have listened to me, is about 85, 88, when I did an RPS South Wales region talk back in June, I believe, May, June. Anyway, mono for you. You're probably wondering, where did that title come from? Well, there's a camera club near me called Neath Camera Club, right? Neath Photographic Society. And every year they book me. But the problem is I ran out of talks for them. So, and I've got a monoprint talk, which they'd seen. And they said, well, what about a mono talk? I said, well, I'll have to put it together for you. So I said, well, I'll tell you what I do. I'll come over to Neath one day, take some pictures, convert them to black and white. And he said, oh, that's it, mono for you. So guys, that's where the title came from. And he's yet to see this talk because they went zooming in May when the talk was booked for. So they're going to see it next May. Anyway, the first title, the first image you're going to see here now in front of you, I'm going to talk about that later. It's just an introduction at the moment, right? Now, for those of you who don't know me, I've been involved in camera clubs since 1978, 42 years. So done loads. It's my camera club tonight, and I usually host for them on a Wednesday because I'm chairman, program sec, external comp sec, and also chairman of a monochrome club and program secretary of that. So really busy. So the first image, right? Now this is David. This is David Izzard, and he must be around 88, 89 even. And I saw him last year, but this is a few years, well, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I stumbled across him, as you do, right? If anyone is here tonight from Bristol, I did a talk for Kingswood on Friday, and this guy lives half a mile from their headquarters where they meet. And at the time, none of them had been to his place. Now, it's not a garage like, oh, I'll go and have my car fixed. It's not that type of garage, guys. He's a hobbyist. It's his hobby, right? And he does it every day. So when I came across it, there was a bit of a drive down to his house. And now his house looks like a farmhouse, 16th century building. And it's all old petrol pumps outside it, loads of them, right? And well, it's a photographer's paradise, isn't it? So I said to my mate Dennis, I've got to drive down this. And look, the door is open, right? It wasn't a shop, it wasn't a garage, nothing like that. The door was open of his house. I just walked in, as you do. I walked in, and there was paraphernalia of mechanical, you know, oil cans, loads of stuff like that. Oh, I thought I died and gone to heaven in it. One room. Then I went into another room. And there's David talking to his mate Ted. Every Friday, I didn't know, was the fish and chip Friday lunch, see? They absolutely ignored me for 10, 15 minutes, right? I'm a stranger to them. And then I butted in and said, look, I'm a Welsh guy, I have to give a talk to the camera club. Any chance I can take photographs outside, you know, all that. So I got talking, they got to sort of trust me. And Ted said, well, do you mind if I take to David, do you mind if I take Gareth and his mate into the garden? Garden, guys. £1 million worth of classic cars in this garden, right? It was about an acre. And it was unbelievable. And I had the cheek to say to Ted, right, it's lovely seeing all this Jowett Javelin, you know, in mint condition. It's lovely seeing all that, but I want to see the crap. I want to see the derelict cars, and there's plenty of them, but he wasn't showing me, right? Anyway, we'll talk about this image. Now, this is not set up. It's David. Jesse said, ignore me, Gareth. I'm just going to get on with my work, right? And I said, that's what I want. I'm going to take candids of you as you were working. What did the judge say? He's not looking at you. Well, if he was looking at me, he'd have burnt his bloody finger, right? Because that's not the setup. So I left all the background information in, and you can see the smoke coming from his welding, that torch, like in it, all that. I have got a colour one of this, but black and white does work really well. And look at that below. See that funnel there? That's a petrol can, guys, and he's got a match for there, right? Anyway, the next one. There's Ted on the left, right? There's Ted. There's some classic cars in the background. Now, I did a talk for the retired South Wales Police traffic department. I used to work for traffic, and not as a police officer, but I know them all. And so I did a talk for them. And they said, Gareth, we know our classic cars inside out, but we don't know this one. And I showed it into them as colour. It's red in colour. Anyway, I couldn't answer them. I didn't know the name of it. So I went to see David again, and I found out it was a 1928 Lloyd. And when I gave a talk to Grimsby and Cleethorpes Camera Club, he said, oh yeah, Gareth, that's built in our area. We know all about it, like, you know. So I thought, well, I won't tell him porkies, like, you know. So the last image where the judge said, I can't see his face, he judged this one as well at a different time. He wanted to see the engine, guys. Where's a bloody radiator in the way? You know, you're not going to see the engine there. Anyway, see Ted's nose. See that bit of cloth behind? That's my bloody friend Dennis. He had a cannon strap right across him. I had to clone it out. And I didn't even see it. I printed it. And I've left the two classic cars in the background, right? It's just showing their habitat. Anyway, this print has never done the wonders in the world of salons. It's just never done it, right? So when we left David's house, we went to Bitton railway station, right? This Avon Somerset Preservation Society thing it is, right? So we went there, but it was closing at 4 o'clock. So a year later, I met up with and you may have had him at your club, another Zoom guy, Mike Martin. We're not related, we're just good friends. So I met up with him, took him to David's house, and Mike lives half a mile from him, never been in. So we went into Bitton. Now, we talked our way into getting into the backyard, guys. And it's huge, it is huge. And it's a trip hazards everywhere. And they just let us roam on our own. Health and safety would have been crying. Anyway, look at it says, Abbey Works, Port Talbot. I just had to take it, didn't I? I go all the way to Bristol to see Port Talbot on a railway track, right? And that jacket was orange, right? So there's that one. Now, this was in the advertisement. This one, I always forget in the introduction. I was talking to a fellow photographer in north of England, we'll say, right? And he said his federation have a lot of travel speakers, right? So he's got to go out of his federation to get people talking about other, parts of photography. So I thought, well, I'll set my mono talk up, which I set up in about July this year. It's a newish talk. I'll set it up with a travelogue sense. And we're starting off with the Bristol images, right? But rather than put all people shots together and all landscape and oddities, you might get bored that way. So I thought, let's mix them up, but have them in regions. So I've got to remember tonight, this is the Bristol region, but they're not all taken in one day. They're all taken different times, right? So this one is taken in October, 2 years ago. It's the SS Great Britain, which you can see behind, right? Black. And it's the Ragged Victorians. And it's just me panning. You don't just pan for wildlife and action shots. You also pan for street life. And look at her character, and I'm just surprised this has never done anything. It's always had 9s in salons. It's just not doing it. But it's her face that says it all. And I've called it that face. Now we've gone into hands now, guys, right? The same day as the last one, same time. And I've turned it from a color image. It went to a black and white, but was gray. So I lift the contrast up. And the way I do it, there's loads of different ways. But I go into channel mixer in Photoshop. Bottom bar is a slider. push it to the right, and increases the contrast just right. So this is a salon image. Now, when I say salon for me, guys, mostly I have restarted entering BPEs, but mostly the Welsh Salon, not international, but the members exhibition, right? Now I've got 25 years consecutive success of getting something in our salon. I had stuff in before that, but not on a run. So I had 3 in this year. They managed to judge it in September, and I had 3 mono prints accepted, right? So this was in last year's Welsh Salon as a digital image. I've now printed it for my, because I'm more known for my print talks, right? So there's that one. Now, again, in the Ragged Victorians, to me, she looks angelic, right? Now you're allowed to photograph the children, right? There is no problem. They are there with their parents and they just playing amongst themselves. They're not posing for you, they're just playing, and you're allowed to all stand in a line and follow them around and take photographs, right? So one of my friends, Jane, she said, well, what about that rope? I did burn it right down. And she said, well, what about cropping the shoulder right off? Well, I am known as a cropper, guys, right? But I cropped it and I thought, no, it does really not work. So I've just left it as it is. I've done a lot of burning in, as you can see in the background. This again, done very well in competitions and battles, but not in salons, right? So I think I just called it Urchin Girl because I was stuck for a title. Now, again, Matthew, a friend of mine, he's photographed this guy. We were standing next to each other and he just took him straight, you know, in that lovely color image. He's the old wounded soldier, isn't he? And I thought, well, I can't really, not so much copy, but the same photograph. So I thought, let's go into pinhole filter in silver effects, right? Now I had a lot of burnt out whites around that wheel. So I had to do a lot of work on that, burn them in. And you can see there's a lot of grain. Now a lot of people don't like grain. Now I come from the era of the late 70s, 80s, where I worked in the darkroom, not as a straight black and white printer, but a creative printer. And we loved grain, you know, so we still need to have grain in our pictures if we can, right? But digital grain and film grain are 2 different animals. They're 2 different beasts. So I've done a lot of vignette on this guy, and this is an unused image, meaning I haven't used it in competitions yet, right? Now this again in Bristol, a different day now. The last one was taken in October 2018, and this is last July. And I'm walking around with Mike Martin. We met at 11 o'clock in the morning. I drove up to Bristol on a Sunday, and we had 7 hours together, and we walked 9 miles. He put a pedometer on, but I was going to a concert in the night by an American country alternative rock singer, Lucinda Williams, and I was going on my own. So I walked all day and I was knackered, but I took this shot. And I know street photography, they say, well, you can't be perfect. And I don't know if it bothers you. I hope it doesn't. It bothers me. Is that glass on the left, right? I wish it wasn't there, but it's there. I have got the arm encroaching on the right, and I have cropped him more. But the wall, the wooden wall, is a very dark, you know, lovely navy blue, like, you know, and there's a lovely blue to it. But I like this image a lot, right? So, do you think that's finished? Do you think you're happy with it? Can you make that better? Let's watch. And I just darkened it, that's all. Just brought it a bit more punch in it. Let's go back, right? There it is, that's fine, isn't it? And a lot of people in the digital age think a grayish image, got this black tones, but a grayish image works. But just add a little bit more bite, right? So, Mark was saying earlier, it's just come to me, Mark was saying about I'm in demand and all that, right? I gave my first Zoom talk on June the 1st. I was one of the slow starters, guys. And from June the 1st to March 2022, I've had about 112 bookings. I'm getting 3 to 4 a week. This is my third one now tonight, and I'm judging 94 images tomorrow night. So it's busy, right? I've even had a Sunday night. You know, I've had a Wednesday morning, about all different times of the day. Right, this gentleman here, what are we attracted to photographically? I'd imagine the experienced photographers will all know what I'm on about. But are there any beginners here tonight? What is the potential in that image? I'm going to tell you now. I've not this image, but the CNI, what I saw, I turned this into a salon print that got in this year, right? And you all are shouting out to me, it's the hands, Gareth, it's the hands. Yes, it's the hands I'm drawn to. Now the problem is, how do I take it? Do I go and ask him? It's not quiet, guys. We're not far from the SS Great Britain on Bristol Dock. We're not far from there, right? But I'm 10 yards away, right? I got a 2890 on. Well, that's no good unless I can go close. But there's a lot of people milling back and forth. Do I put my 150 to 140 to 600 on and take, you know, a sly one like from a long range and hope no one gets in the way? Or do I man up, guys? Do I man up? Do I go over to him and talk to him, right? Now, some people will tell you to get lost. You just got to work out, are they the ones going to tell you to get lost or not? So I go over to him, right? And as I go over to him, this happens, right? This lady, she buys him an ice cream. Well, that kills it, doesn't it? He's eating his ice cream now. Well, my photograph's gone. And I thought, I'm not putting up with that. I am going to get that photograph, right? I'm determined to get it. So I didn't go back and talk to him. I go, well, I can't take it. Like, I carried on. And in my head, it all evolved together. And I said to this gentleman, right, let's go back. I said to him, look, I've got to give you £10. Why? I said, mister, I've got to give you £10. Why is that? I said, I want to throw an ice cream on the floor. This is true now, guys. Throw an ice cream on the floor and I'll photograph your hands. Well, this lady, Jackie, this is Jackie. She is his niece. She got a son with her. They started talking. Mike came over. He had his ice cream. I got my shot. And there it is, right? There's my photograph. You can see the watch in the background a bit, but I assure you in a print, guys, you can't see the watch, right? So it's just, I could have called it simply hands, but I got loads of photographs of hands. So I called it content, or at rest, I think I called it, right? So that got in this year's Welsh Salon as a print. Now, guys, we're still in Bristol. Now, you didn't think you'd see a swear word tonight, did you? I'm X-rated, I am 18, right? So this was 6 o'clock in the evening, and we weren't far away from me going to a concert. So we saw this window now, right? It was a pub, guys, but we didn't know it was a pub. We couldn't see inside the bar or anything. All you could see was lots and lots of cats. That's all you could see. So we just thought it was, well, we had no idea. Just look at all them cats, like. So 5 to 6 came, and the landlord turned up on his push bike. And he said, you coming in for a pint? Yeah, he didn't know it was a pub. Walked in. Now, I don't know if any of you roughed it into pubs, right? But when I was younger, in my 20s, I was a rocker, and I had longish hair, and I used to go into rock joints, right? And they looked rough to other people, but they weren't, right? Now, this one had all the trimmings of looking rough, right? Now, we didn't have a jukebox player. On my right, and in a little alcove with a lamp, table lamp, was a record player. And he was playing Hawkwind from 1972. It's that type of pub, guys, right? And he had a blackboard, this landlord now. He had a blackboard. And every rule, it was a rule. All the rules of the pub. And every rule, guys, started with the letter F. And if you upset the landlord, you were F out. You know, it was all like that. If you touch his record player, you're out. It was all them rules. So we were looking at the names of his beer, and I can't remember what beer I had, but I know it was boring name to it like that one. Now, I've called this the landlord, meaning the cat is the landlord. Now, the landlord told me, oh, 15 cats we got in here. We did have 30. And if somebody said, oh, that's not allowed, well, you tell it to him, because it is allowed. They're doing it. This isn't the landlord. This is the guy who was working with him. So they were really friendly guys, and they were quite concerned about me going to another pub and drinking, because they said you've got to pick the right pub with the right beer, because they were connoisseurs of their beer, right? There we are. Now this is Cwmorthin. Now we've got a gentleman here tonight from Betws-y-Coed, so it's on your doorstep, right? And I've got more images of Cwmorthin coming up, right? This is taken last year. Now, in the noughties, I was judging loads of images of Cwmorthin, and I'd never been there. So I thought, stop this, I got to go. I went 3 times in 10 months, and then I kept on going. If not every year, every 2 years. Anyway, went last year. And quick story now, I met up with a friend from Banbury Camera Club, retired judge, right? Keith Long, if any of you know him, very good friend of mine. And another friend from Batol that I took up. Anyway, they both wind up merchants, guys, right? So I told them I was going to walk up that hill, which, you know, if you've been there, is a slog, right? I had no intention of going up there, but I told them I was going up, right? But I had my dog with me. He's a legend in camera clubs now, guys. He's called Pugwash. So they go up, right? And what they do, unknown to me, they meet a few strangers. And they said, when you go down and you see a guy with a tripod and a white dog, just say to him, are you Gareth? And walk off. Well, they did tell it to a lot of people, but only one person said it to me, right? Now, there's always a twist in the tale. If you know Cwmorthin, right, we regroup, the 3 of us, and as we walk in towards the cars, down a hill to the car park, a mother, father, and son walking up the hill. They won't believe what happened next. As they sort of just passing me, and I didn't recognize them, they just passed me, they turn around and say, are you Gareth? Well, Neil and Keith didn't know what to look, because they hadn't met this guy before. But I knew him. He's from Triaris, member of Aberdare Camera Club, and bought a house in Tanagrisu. So I knew him. They're friends of mine on Facebook. You never guess. So there's that Cwmorthin one. Now there's another Cwmorthin. Last one was taken last year, and this is 2017. I took a party of friends up. There was 9 of us, all guys, for a weekend, right? And we had, I don't know if you ever heard the word mist, with glorious mist, right? But I love mist. And 2 of my friends said, well, we don't have to ever come here again because we got the perfect weather. You don't want blue skies and clouds. You want crap weather, right? We even got crappier weather coming up later for Cwmorthin. So that's an antique filter in silver effects, right? I mean to print this, I haven't got round to it. Forget. Now this got in this year's Welsh Salon. This is 2018 in the mist. The mist was starting to clear because at one stage you couldn't see in front of you, you know, your hand. But there's one now I've worked on. I did make a blown out white one of it, you know, high key, but I preferred this one. Now this is taken in 2014. 14 or 15, I'm not sure. Now, I used to spend a night or 2 up in Blaenau Ffestiniog, but on this occasion, and I've done it 3 times, I've driven up to North Wales in 1 day. 3.5 hours up, 3.5 hours back, and 8 hours taking photographs. Absolutely bucketing down with rain, right? Now, in this photograph here, I had a lull. There was no rain. You can see that, right? I did a lot of cloning on the left because there was a road sign, believe it or not, in front of that wall because there was work going on. So I call that House on a Hill. And after tonight, if you've got time, or tomorrow, have a look at the PAGB e-news website, right? Go into newsletters, the edition 257, page 8, and there's 8 of my photographs, sepia, and my story of that day, and the way I tell it, right, about the editing and what I've done, right? So that's featured there. There's this one, guys. Now, I've done the pinhole filter in this. It's a bit of a long story, but I'll cut it short. I wanted to, it sounds stupid, guys, but I wanted to destroy my images. I wanted to rip them apart, you know, grunge them up. There was a reason behind it of a certain judge who had taken points off somebody's photograph because it wasn't taken on a proper camera, and I took it the wrong way, and I thought they meant they didn't like grain. So I thought I'll grunge it up and I'll re-educate judges. Well, lo and behold, guys, this is a trophy winning image. This wins the Barrian Cup. Now, the Barrian Cup is run by Barry Camera Club, and at the time they were getting 28 to 30 clubs from the WCPF and the WPF, right? So John Tilsley from Dorchester, PAGB judge, he judged this, and he gave me best landscape, right? That's 2015, this one. So all I've done is the pinhole filter, which gives you a vignette and a lot of grunge, a lot of grain, right? So that's the first house, the house on the hill you just saw. This is it, the back end of it. Now, you might think, compositionally, does it work? Yes, it does work, doesn't it? Why didn't I step further back? Well, there's a fence behind me, right? And you can walk around the fence, but I didn't know that when I step over it to get further back, right, that is electrified, guys. There's electric current running through it. So you can guess what I had a tingle, right? So there's the classic shot now of Rosyth Chapel on your left, right? A lot of rainwater around, so you've got the reflection, and there's your sepia, right? Lovely mist. Now, there's this one, guys, right? Now, right. What are we going to do to this one? I'm going to grunge it up like the other one, right? I'm going to grunge it up. But I'm not much influence, but the inspiration, right? I've got to be talking the early 80s, right? And I had a book by a professor called Professor O.C.R. Croy, something like that, them initials. I lent the book out and never had it back. But it was like a Bible, you know, it was, very creative, lots of creative processes in there. Also at the time, we were looking at Bill Brandt exhibitions, right? And there's one photograph of Bill Brandt where the cobble street, and if you look at it now, it's heavily burnt in. And I thought I could do that and certain whitewash effect. Now, certain whitewash, black and white, but I was doing sepia, right? I was doing sepia. So on the left, we've got the footpath on the left, right? It's never been here before. The path in the middle is not the footpath. The footpath's on the left, right? This has got to be some sort of tram road, but it's only 2 or 3 feet high and 3 feet wide, right? And we take you straight down to our tree and the chapel. Now, the next image, you were going to see straight through that tree, right? Now, on the right, we've got detail, haven't we, in that building. But sometimes people want detail in that building, but I didn't, right? I didn't want block black, but I didn't want all that detail because I just wanted to send you on a journey straight down the middle. So here we go. There it is, right? Now this won the 2016 Best Landscape in the Barrian Cup as a print, guys. These are prints. And at the end tonight, I'll show you the way I produce my prints because I suppose there are other people in the UK that do it my way, but not many. There are a few around and some started copying me. I produce smaller prints. People call them miniatures, but I just call them not big, guys, right? Not big. I put a 2 centimeter canvas around a white stroke line and then another 2 centimeter canvas, and that makes them bigger, right? So this got in the Welsh Salon, highly commended, and it did loads of other things. And then this year, I resurrected it for my club battles. We had 2 summer 10-way battles, lockdown, and this are 20 twice by different judges. So it's exaggerating that grain there, isn't it? Right? I had a lot of work to do. I had burnt out whites and everything. I have to work on it a lot, right? So for the Beta Secoy, gentlemen, this is the Lone Tree at Llanberis. But 2018 was Storm Callan weekend, right? It absolutely hammered down, if you can remember it. On a Sunday when we were going home, it was beautiful. But on a Thursday when we arrived, hammered down. But the six, 7 of us went. We had an absolute great weekend. And you can imagine there was 6 photographers in a line by here, right? Without hanging onto our tripods, weighing them down, because the wind was so strong and blowing it. So I just call this, I didn't call it the Lone Tree, I call it windswept. Now I wondered about that branch on the left. I left it in. Should I have taken it out or not? Anyway, it had a 20 in my camera club competition, and this year it just got in the salon, right? So it's a small miniature. It's called windswept. So that one. Now these are just some pictures I took from the lay-by of Snowdon last year, and that cloud formation. Now I've got color images, guys, and they look very monochromatic, and I did print up some small ones, right? But here's 1 or 2 black and whites, right? So there's another one. Now we're in North Wales. Now, where are we? For the gentleman from Beta Secoy, I can't pronounce the name, but there's something sounds like Slaybold, right? And there's a cafe there, and the owner has got his own exhibitions in there of all his photographs hanging up. You might know where I am now. Anyway, down the road from there, there's like a mountain warehouse shop, buying all your mountain clothes and everything. Behind there, there's a car park, but there's this road, and you drive up the road to a gate, which is, you can't go any further, right? But I drove up there wandering, right? So there was a reason why I was wandering. I split away from my friends because they went somewhere that was very dodgy, when a big sign said, "Keep out, you will be shot." So I stayed away from that one, and I went up this one instead. Now, when you do this type of software editing work, right, you're going to get a dreaded halo around the telegraph pole. Now, if you blow that up and you run the clone tool around it, you get rid of it. But what about another way, right? What if we take it out? So no one knows. There's no halo now, is there? Now, I did this little series for the talk just to show you what you can do. I've never used these in competitions or anything. They're just to show you what you can achieve, right? Now, look at the sky above, right? It's just a bit of sky, isn't it? Do we need it? It's nice with it, but do we need it, right? So here we go. Now, by cropping that sky, doesn't it emphasize the wet road? I don't know if this image would do anything, but it emphasizes the wet road. And then the next one is totally different. No, sorry, sepia. The next one. See, I went back and I did that to it. I quite like that one, right? So, right, we're in Llanberis, the Slate Museum, because of Storm Callan weekend. It was pouring down with rain. On the Saturday, I think, they were closing the roads, and we managed to drive across the Llanberis Pass. And if you know the Llanberis Pass, right, now I'm not into classical music, but I put classic FM on driving across that pass. It just gelled with all that classical music and the pouring rain and the wind. It just worked right. Anyway, we're in the Slate Museum. We spent 5 hours there. We were taking photographs. The guys were drinking tea and coffee. I don't drink tea and coffee, so I was enjoying cake, guys. So who photographs white sheets in a white room? Now this is a color image, guys, right? Just to show you it's a color image. 7 of us there, 6 of them walked past it as it was, and nothing shot, isn't it? What about that? That making something of nothing, see? Right? And then a sepia. And the reason I did the sepia, we got burnt out area there and we in the sheet, right? So I did the sepia. But I put one of these in to the Welsh Salon. I think it was this one last year, and I missed out by a point, right? Now, I forgot about, yeah, we went from Bristol to North Wales, and now we're in Llanelli now, guys, right? And there's a place called Llanelli House. I think it's something odd price, like £7.25 or something to go in. There's a lovely tea room in there. You know, you can have a meal and you don't have to pay the £7. But on a Friday, my camera club go out on a Friday with it before COVID. Well, in the summer months, we managed a few. But we go out on a Friday and I organise them, right? And sometimes we go to buildings like this, preservation societies, you know, things like that, unusual places to go and photograph. So I didn't really know what to expect here. I'd read up about it, but I obviously missed something. And 3 people dressed up for us into costume of the 18th century, right? So as we're going up the stairs, I look back and I see this mannequin, right? Headless mannequin. It's very grainy, guys. I was explaining to Mark what camera I got now, but this was in my previous camera, and it's an Olympus E5, 8 years old. It's not good in low light, right? You can see all the noise. It's not grain, there's a lot of noise, right? So it's not great, and that's handheld, right? And then I did that to it, right? Now I got block black under there, and which is not great, but I got block black, right? But let's do another one image, and let's move the light. Let's move the light, right? So we move the light source, and then I opened up the block blacks then down the bottom, see? So I don't know if I'll ever use this, but it's I like it, you know, I like the grunge in it, right? So this is Nadia, and unknown to me, my wife had taught her in school. A friend of mine, Saif, and his brother Ram, they run a local Indian restaurant down the road from me, and they invited myself to photograph the wedding with some other photographers, and we had a great time, guys. I must have taken 1,000 images. I took loads. I'm only showing you this one tonight, I think, right? And they said, we'll turn up at +1, Gareth. The wedding starts at 2. Oh, I thought I was on edge, man. So at 12 o'clock, I went to get all the candids. You know, I got loads of candids of them. And we ate with them, you know. So now we're into Talbot, guys, right? Now this is Maga Mountain. Now I've walked over here several times and taken camera clubs over there. It's a lovely 4-mile walk. It is a bit of a slog on one side, but what's there to see? From the motorway, if you look up, you can see 3 World War II radar stations. You can go in 2 of them when it's overgrown, but they were worth going in. And then you got Half Moon Camp, which I done very well at the Half Moon Camp. It's a curvature. Was a lookout for Napoleon Bonaparte ships. There's a ruined monk's chapel on the mountain, and also below it is a monk's baths, which is intact. And this tree. So I photographed this tree many times and got nothing out of it. So I thought, well, let's have another crack now. I've done it with black skies and sun and all that, but I thought, let's have another go. And I got this one. I don't know, but it looks all right as a print, right? Now, this is below Maga Mountain, right? On the flat, on the A48, right? Running from Port Talbot to Pyle. Now, this tree, another lone tree you could call it, this tree, this is a color image. This tree has got a curvature, right? Now, in the bottom, see that lump there? That's the farmer's house. I thought I'd leave the farmer's house in, right? And some telegraph poles. I thought I'd just leave them in, right? When I was playing with it. Now, when I took this, I had to jump over the fence to get in the field. What do you think happened next? The farmer turned up in his tractor and asked me what I was doing. What happened next, guys? I sold him a print. That's what happened next. Now, I left a slither of green in this. I know it's a colour and it's a monotog, but I'm going to show you the black and white, right? I don't know if this is too, I don't know if it works or not, but I was playing, right? So I did that one. It's still a colour. I did that one. And then I did that one. Just tone to it, right? So I like this one. Let's see now. And then I did that one, right? So that's taking it right down, right? So I quite like that. I quite like this one. So I wanted to show you the mini series of them. Right? I usually put a stroke line around all my images, but I like that one branch on the right. Now in Port Talbot, it's a railway bridge, right? Now behind me is the steelworks, and there's a newish road, a few years old, but there's a newish road that runs through the steel, not through the steelworks, but very close to it. And you can stop on the side of the road on the roundabouts in the night and get your photographs, right? But there's a disused road, this is, right? So I just set up a tripod that day, and let's see what develops. And this gentleman just walked, didn't say a word to me, just walked past me. And somebody said on Facebook, it looks like somebody going home from the day at the mill. I'm just gonna have a drink. Anyway, he was going home from the day at the steelworks, right? Now, only one person has said about that little white sky. I didn't, I'm a judge, but I thought, do I leave it in or not? I left it in. It's done well with it left in, right? So as you turn your camera then, from that last position, you see this. And I was shooting for a themed competition. At the moment, my club just do open, which suits me to the ground. But this was themed and it was like I can't remember the title, but there was something to do with nature and man, and I was just showing all the undergrowth of flowers growing through the fencing, As a colour, it did well, and it did even better as a monochrome. Right? So this is my little dog, Pugwash, and he's got an orange ball, and I say he lost it. He's probably had about 10 since this was taken, but we saw it flowing down the river this afternoon. He plays with it on the edge, and he pushed it in the river. And he looks at me, you can go and get it. Anyway, this photograph, right? This photograph. You probably all watch or are aware of the TV program, long-running TV program called Casualty. They do, they shoot in this area. They shoot scenes. Now, only 2 weeks ago, guys, I've been relaying this story to all the clubs, and 2 weeks ago, they shot, they had an ambulance there, and on the road, and they did a mock shoot, right? Anyway, I can't get this shot again because because we think they own this house, right? It's a very shabby house, right? They put scaffolding up here. No work going on there, just scaffolding there, maybe for TV cameras or something. Anyway, if you look at you might be able to see it. It's number 1. There is no number 2, guys. That's one house, number 1 in a street. I don't know what the street's called, but it's number 1. Round the corner is number 1 and number 2. And see that pine end there? That's a different house again, bricked up to that one. So I took this one last year on a Saturday night in July. Now there's me. I mentioned Nadia, the wedding, and Saif, the Indian restaurant owner, right? Well, look at the foreground here. We've got chewing gum, guys. Does it bother you? It didn't bother me, but it did bother one judge. He only gave it 19. That's tight, isn't it? He didn't like chewing gum. So I put this on Facebook, right? The judge is a friend of mine, no problem, but Saif got to hear about it, and you won't believe what happened, guys. You won't believe it. Saif is a councillor of this area, Talbot, and he had councilmen on their hands and knees lifting the chewing gum off the floor. Gareth, I've removed the chewing gum for you. Now, you wouldn't believe that, would you? But they did it. It's gone. So I thought, well, why would they do that? Well, beyond you and the pillars, guys, right, was bedspreads, and rubbish and old clocks. Great for photographers, but not great for the people living there, right? There's people's gardens there on the left, and on the right are the pillars to the M4. You're right underneath it. So he said, well, no, we cleaned it up for you, Gareth. And anyway, months went by, and then I found out that S4C Wales, the TV company, were shooting a crime drama called Bang. And I thought, yeah, they're cleaning up the area, aren't they? And they're having a backhander or something. But why lift chewing gum off the floor? Anyway, the story is, it's done for me, and that's that. Anyway, I took this shot. I put the tripod as low as it would go, guys, collapsed it, low as it would go, and focused on the curb. Now, I put it on F22 just to get a slow shutter, right? Now, you've got to be very brave to do this. I mean, or stupid, very brave of the surroundings around you, the people. Anyone could pick it up and run 100 miles an hour with a tripod and camera on it, innit? So I left it there. So Pugwash follows me. A council van stopped in front of me. So I've cloned that out of the way. Now, if you go left to my head and you see a white dot, can't you? Now, if I lifted that camera up higher, it'd be white ball sky. So that's why it's tightly cropped to my head. It's in the taking stage, right? So now this one is 1/4 mile from my house. To the left of where I'm sitting is the River Avon in Talbot. I'm standing on a very old rusty bridge, erected in 1909, and we can't walk across it now. In the health and safety say it's dangerous to pedestrians. Have you heard anything so stupid? Anyway, we can't walk across it, and it's a solid structure. Anyway, I took this shot. I know I took it at 7:15 on a Saturday night in September 2016, right? Now, when I do the colour, my in the making talk, the colour one of this, I show the original, and it's blue mist, guys, it is proper mist, right? Anyway, I use diffuse glow, which is a filter in Photoshop, and it puffs up mist and puffs up grass, right? Now we've got 2 blocks of black. You can just see them on the right, and they are called dolphins. We'll talk about them later. Now in the background, which you can't see, and there's nothing much there to see, but 100 years ago was a dry dock, and my grandfather was the chief engineer there. So in the back of my head, maybe subconsciously, I wanted an industrious, picture of that time. Modern boats, but to show it with all the, what's the word? A lot of grunge, a lot of sweat and everything going on, right? And then also in my head, I had the masters of art, like Saturn and Constable, and so let's do brush strokes as well into it. So that was my inspiration behind this image. But when I did that, I thought sometimes black and white can be a bit cold. And also, I wanted to show it of a 19th century, right? So I thought, well, I've got to put a sepia tone to it, right? So I did that one, and this was quite successful. It represented my federation in the PAGB, as a mini print, small print, and it's one of my favorites, The next one, guys, this was taken a Sunday morning now after the Saturday night, right? Now there's the dolphin in the water, right? In the middle now, not the foreground, in the water. I wondered, nobody has been able to explain to me why they call dolphins. I've got friends in the 90s who have worked in the maritime world, and they said, it's a maritime name, Gareth, dolphin. It's a term. Yeah, but why? Oh, we don't know why. They're called dolphins. So it's got to be going back over 100 years or more, isn't it? Anyway, we got a ship. This is the small port in Port, and this ship, as seen, it comes in from Russia, Holland, and it takes the slag from the steelworks, which you can see in the background, around the country to build motorways with and Wembley Stadium, things like that, right? The big dock is on my right out the picture. Now, what's in the foreground, guys, if you ever find yourself in Port, for whatever reason, you've got to visit this area. Now, Andy Beale, who's a good black and white worker, I took him to this spot, and it's about 500 yards maybe of this wood, right? Now, as you follow it more to the right, it gets higher, and it's probably 10, 12 feet high. Now, it's a narrow gauge railway line taken down about 120 years ago. Now, when the tide is out, you can get in there, guys, and walk it, right? It goes right down. And that wooden structure is a lovely patterned wall of wood. And even some locals thought it was what's the word? Harbour wall type of thing, but they've not. It's this narrow gauge railway line. So now there's another one, and that's taken from the bridge, right? And with my antique filter and silver effects. Now these guys in the background, guys, I used to call them cranes. Oh, I tell you, don't ever call them cranes if you with somebody who worked on them. It's like swearing. They called uploaders, right? They don't like you calling them cranes, guys. But from the motorway, when you're traveling through Port Talbot, look across to your left. If you come in from England, look across to your left, and you'll see these uploaders. They stand out a mile away, right? So there's that one. Now you all recognize him, don't you? Hollywood A-star actor Michael Sheen. Now in 2011, he organized with the producer the Passion Play in Port Talbot, and they reckon that 12,000 people turned up to see it, right, on the Monday. It started at 6 o'clock, Good Friday morning, down the very far end of the beach, and I got down there early. In fact, I was in the water with Michael Sheen. I was only yards away from him, trying to get a shot of him being baptized, right? And he was known in this as the teacher. Now, I followed him all down the riverbank, and we'd never met before, but I knew his father, and he said to me, "You must have enough photographs of me." I said, "Never got enough of somebody of your status," right? Anyway, the next day, the next day on the Saturday, we were in an area called Llewellyn Street, and he was there filming now with thousands of people, and you won't believe it, guys, right? Llewellyn Street was knocked down for the motorway, so they were portraying all ghosts and all that. They had the TV camera, their cameras rolling and all that. So I was there with my monopod then, up high, taking the photographs. And he just put his hand up and he said, "All right, Gareth." Well, you can imagine it. And there's 6,000 people went quiet and oh, look at him. How did he know Michael? So there we are, status. So there we go. This is on the River Avon, right? But I just showed you them shots. This is on the River Avon, right? Now, this is a setup shot, guys. This is Rod. He does pose for my club now and again. I've got him to do a, providing we can do it in December, I've asked him to reshoot him dressed up as a 1940s miner. We did it once. We've had some really good shots out of it. So I'm going to do it again. I didn't go, but we had him dressed up as he was in his father's World War II Navy outfit, right? It was a scream, I've been told. Anyway, I met him through swimming, and he got in touch with me. "Any more shoots, Gareth?" I said, "Well, I have got one I'm thinking of." "Oh, anything. I'll dress up anything. I said, will you dress up as a gentleman on the road? You want to see his face? He went deadpan, like, you know. And he's a professional actor, guys. He does small parts, you know, in Casualty, you know, extras or bit parts, few lines, things like that. But he's a dapper guy. You know, when he's chilling, when he's out in his own life, he's a dapper gentleman, right? So he brought his own stuff along, right, for the shoot. We're in the underpass of the M4. Now, you're not going to believe what happened next. I think I shot this without the studio lights, but we had studio lights set up there, very professional, right? We had the lights set up. And then we had members of the public walking past, right? And they thought we were shooting to do profiles, you know, on the gentlemen of the tramps in the area, right? We didn't see any, but apparently there's a lot, which we weren't. And then this man walked past in his 40s, and he said, I'm homeless. Well, me and my mate just joked, you know, and said, he was better dressed than I was. So anyway, we had a few things like that. Then we took Rod for a meal, right? So we were and he's dressed up as a 1950s gentleman of the road, you know. So one of my friends did get an image in the internationals out of this, right? So this is not a stable, guys. Between my house and the River Avon is this back lane. Now, I went down that back lane for one reason only, to photograph a house, guys. How many of you go out to photograph a house? And it's coming up soon. It's what judges describe as a derelict house. But I know that a mother and son live in this house. And she'd be mortified if she knew I was photographing it. But you photograph it from the public right away. So you're allowed to take a back lane. So anyway, as I go down this lane, this horse is called Tommy, right? So Tommy now is there having new shoes fitted. And I have my dog with me, Pugwash, and I say to the farrier and the owner, do you mind if I take photographs? He said, we don't mind, but what about the dog? You know, because dogs and horses, as you know, don't always mix. And Pugwash doesn't mix with horses, but that day he sat on bags of straw. I couldn't believe it, how well behaved he was, because I had to let him go so I could take photographs. So I've just shown you that one there tonight, right? And then this is the owner of Tommy. I don't know this gentleman's name, so I've called it Tommy's father. No one will know he's the father of a horse, will he? I put a pinhole filter on this, so I've got a lot of grain. I don't know what it is about this picture, but it grows on me every time I look at it. But it's only getting 9s, guys, in the salons. It's just not doing it, but I like it, right? Now there's the house, guys. Yes, somebody does live in there, right? The best photograph I ever saw outside, well, I say saw, I didn't have a camera, not even a phone camera, right? I didn't have, but on outside the front, on the wall, right, was a cat with a live mouse in his mouth, and the mouse looked at me, or a mini rat, whatever, and he's still alive, and he was dangling in his cat's mouth. I thought, what a photograph I could have taken of that, innit? But it was not to be, guys. The roof of this house, they must have buckets everywhere. Now, Colin, a friend of mine, lives next door. He said, I bought the house next door for a song. And he said, I'm hoping I will buy her out. He said, that's what I'm hoping. And I can take over the garden and that, you know, and do the house up. But look at it. Now, we're in lockdown, guys. Now this is taken in April or May. And I thought, well, I didn't take photographs for quite a while. And I thought, well, see them dead flowers? I was photographing them, right? Outside against my blue painted shed. And I thought, let's go inside and take a photograph. And look, who's there? Bailey. I got 4 cats and Pugwash, right? So this is Bailey. He's just sitting there. So I thought, let's do a shot. So there's the contents of one half my shed, right? And now there's this one. Now I say set it up, it's hanging there. Now there's a gentleman I used to be in Camera Club with, and his name is Humberto Gatica. I'm back in touch with him now, and when I was in Camera Club in Swansea with him in the early noughties, he was a technician in a college, photography technician, and he just produced, say, a photograph of a spanner, you know, or anything but one. And it would be pure black and white, all blacks around it, and that spanner. And you won't believe it, it had 20 every time it went out. So I thought, let's do like a tribute. He's still alive, but like a tribute to him, right? And do the one item. But I haven't made it totally black like he did his. I've left a bit of detail in the shed in the background. So I've never used this, it's just for the talk it is, right? So there we go, guys, right? They showed you in the introduction this image. How did this image evolve? I went out into Port Talbot on a Saturday morning, guys, with one idea in my head, right? One idea. You'll never guess what that was. To photograph trees, right? That was growing, you know, on the side of the road, in the tarmac, you know, on the pavements. And there was 2 trees I could think of without looking for more, right? And there was one not far from me. I got some nice shots of it, right? And then in Port Talbot, there's a roundabout as you go shopping to Morrison's. And there's a tree there, and when you drive where that car is and you got mist, it looks gorgeous. But I didn't have mist, and it wasn't raining, but it was that flat, wetty day, like, you know. So I went there and I thought, oh, what can I do? And it just came to me. I saw the bend in the road and I thought, that's it. Now my car was parked on the left of that white line, right? So I thought, well, there it is. There's the bend. Let's make it black, really black and white, and do that. Now, some judges have said, and Rod Whelan's one of them, to take the car, not to take the car out, sorry, to add another layer and put more black at the top, right? They've said that, fair enough. And then another person said, why don't you do this? Can you imagine a picture like that with no car? And it's called the bend, guys, right? So they said, do that. Anyway, 2 years ago, I put this out into competitions and I got 17s. And this year, I put it into the Robin Hood BPE, and this got in 12 out of 15. So it's done something, hasn't it? So there was that one, right? Now this is in Glencorrog, and I was telling Mark earlier that I had 2 people zoom in from Arizona, right? And you won't believe it, but the guy, I'm friendly with his wife on Facebook, but the guy, his parents are from this little village, Glencorrog, right? It's like the center of the universe, but it's a dead end town, you know, you can't drive through it. But I've come away with quite a few successful images in Glencorrog, right? It's a nice little town. Well, I say town, as a village. Anyway, the light was shining on that gate, which is part, I think, of a water treatment area. This is an old railway line, and I thought, I'm going to do black and white. I was with a friend, I said, this is going to go black and white. So I made this. Now this is in Glencorrog. This won me Best Mono Creative in the Welsh Salon 2018. Now at the bottom, this might be of interest to Mark, this might be, at the bottom we have a chapel, right? And it stands on a 10th century monastery. Now, if you've heard of Llandaff Cathedral in Cardiff, and Margam Park, but Margam, they both at the time had monasteries, right? Margam Monastery and Llandaff, right? Now, I remember researching this over 20 years ago, and this is what I read, guys, right? If you was a naughty monk, if you was a naughty monk from Llandaff or Margam, you were sent to Glencorrwg. Now, I tell you guys, the people in Petalbert and around this area don't know that there was a monastery here. But if you go there in the village, there's a placard up telling you that there was, right? And I found it in a book, right? But now I've Googled it, because they say you can find anywhere on Google. I can't find anything about the history of that. I joined Glencorrwg Historical Society on Facebook, and the people said, yeah, we'd like to find something out, but no one knows anything that lives in our village. You know, and I know one farmer, his brothers, I spoke to his brother and he said, yeah, my brother's a farmer and he's got monks' buildings that Cadw have been to. So it's very interesting to try and find out more, right? Now, I showed you Rod, didn't I, earlier, as a gentleman of the road. This is him as a 1940s miner. And we're hoping to do this again in December. There's a mining museum 8 miles from me, half an hour guide, and they've given us permission to shoot it, providing, you know, lockdown and that, everything. But there he is. Now, Rod hasn't smoked a cigarette for 30 years, and he promised his father he'd never smoke again, but he lit that just for the shoot, just for us, he lit it. Now, this is all pin sharp, isn't it? I called it in the field of industry. Now, my friend has done one where he's done one lots with his, but mine, I don't think they like the background, you know. It doesn't. But there's a lady who got in touch with me and she said, I'd like to paint it. And oh, it was like in my throat, what do I do? I said yes, and she painted it totally different way. And I let her do it, right? So now this is the Britain Ferry start. You can't see it, guys, but I'll point it out to you. On the left, right, there's the start of the Britain Ferry Canal. It's 13 miles long, guys, right? It's a lovely walk. I've never walked it in one go, but I have walked it, right? Now on the right, this corrugated building is arsonists are drawn there, guys, and raves, right? And there's Pugwash, you know, you can see there's the shot in it, and that's what I take. Now, this is Swansea Dock, right? Trinity House. A friend of mine in the club, he said, what about a visit on a Friday, Gareth, to Trinity House? I said, oh, it's a lot of red tape and all that. Do you fancy having a go at it? So he had a go at it. We set up a meeting with the manager. He wanted to see us without the cameras. And we had 90 minutes with him. And he got to like us, you know. And then I set up, he said, well, on a Wednesday, he said, we have a ship coming in, but not a Friday. So we went there on a Wednesday and a Friday. And one day on this Wednesday, it poured down, you know. So I took this shot here because I wasn't allowed to go closer, guys. There was a gate, and that's good enough. You know, I got what I wanted. And what they do there, see on the left, you're wondering what them contraptions are. They are the boys in the sea. And these guys not make the wells and all that, but they put the computers inside the boys so that they know where they are and they can move them computer operated, right, from this base, right? And they go all over the place working on them, right? So it was allowed to take loads of photographs. And I arranged to go there in July this year, but because of COVID, we couldn't go, right? So now was invited to Kevin Coyd Museum Mental Hospital, right? They were going to knock, I don't know if they have, they were going to knock this building down. And they invited members of the RPS. And I wasn't a member at the time, but I got invited and invited 2 other friends. So I call this Open Doors. But I've printed this and it looks much better as a print, right? Now we're in Swansea. That's me, guys. Now I like the paint peeling on the wall, right? I like the banister, you know, the armrail, liked all that peeling paint, but it was empty, you know? So I just put myself in and walked down or took it on a tripod, right? But we had a tour guide with us, so we're only allowed so much time in there. I tried to straighten this, but the judge picked up on the door wasn't straight then, innit? So this one I put in for the talk, but it's much better as a colour. You know, it's lichen on the walls and all that, and it won a monthly for me, but it does work. I just called it, I think, beam of light. You know, call it white light, because the judge would say, oh, look at that white light, but that's what it's called, right? So, right, this is back to Lanelli House, guys. You know, you have, we had two tour guides with us, and you know, when you go into historical buildings, there's ropes and then ropes stop you going further. Now, I wasn't allowed to go further with the tour guides there. So this blanket, see, that was tucked in nicely. So I saw what I could do to this. So they just turned their back for a second. I jumped over. I pulled that back. That's all. Every else is there. Now see the black window. It was a black shutter with light leaking through on the left and right. So I burnt that down heavily, pulled that blanket down, and then put it all back tidy, right? So that's a shot out of nothing. And then you know, the the snooker tables, right? The green baize. That's what this is. That black is a green table, right? And I've taken this, and I didn't set it up. You weren't allowed to touch it. It's like that, right? I just composed it like that and put a tone on it as well, right? Now this gentleman was the lord of the manor, right? And it's not set up. We're all walked, two of us walked into the room and he's just waiting for us. And it's a grab shot, guys, right? It's very noisy. And I've worked on it. I left some detail on the left and a bit of detail on the right on purpose. I like the glass decanter, liked all that, right? So he's just looking out. But the next one, guys, right? Then is that one. Now that's just got into the RPS digital imaging exhibition for me. I did a colour, but can you see just on his top shoulder there, there's a bit of grass on his right shoulder, there's a bit of grass, bit of foliage, and that's quite colourful. So it's really distracting. So I worked on this and I called it Looking Out. And as I talk, this has probably been done now. It's been judged tonight in the competition. Mark, we can have a quick break by if you want.
Yes, that'd be great. Sorry, Gareth, I'm chatting to a muted microphone as per usual. Yes, that'd be absolutely cool. Really good time for a break if that's okay with everybody else. And we could just have what time are we on? Why don't we just have a 10-minute break? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Come back just before past if that's okay.
Yeah.
Couple of questions just coming up now. What I'll do is I'll just pause the recording, so give you time to answer questions, or I'll get back to people, and then I'll put on my sort of list of what's coming up next, and then we'll come back at around sort of 8:30 if that's okay, everybody.
You want me to stop share this, Mark?
Yeah, if you don't mind, yes, because I'll put mine on as well. So I'll just pause the recording now. You are more than welcome to go back into your screen sharing and carry on. Thanks very much, Gareth.
Okay. One lady said it's nice to have a comical guy. I try to make my talks illuminating, I suppose, humorous. I was inspired many years back by two photographers. One is Bernard Brown from Barry. He could tell a story. And the other one lives in Trowbridge now with Peric Meakin ARPS. And I was inspired by the way they portrayed themselves as judges and speakers. Right, so this is Lance Stefan. right? Believe it or not, it's a derelict. Well, it's not derelict, no, it's the old church hall. And I went there with the camera club on a Friday. We all went to the castle, somewhere, went to the beach, and I went for a wander around the village with Pugwash, right? And it's funny how difficult you think this is, a simple shot to take, but it's not. There's railings in front of me, so I had to photograph, through the railings what I can. Luckily, there's no cars parked on the side of the road. No, I didn't know that was lucky at the time, but I went back there on the last Friday in March of lockdown, and it was all cars parked there. And what did that do? All the cars' reflections were in that window, and I couldn't take that shot. But this time, when I was there, that cone wasn't there. I couldn't move the cone. I couldn't get inside there. And this lady stopped for a chat, and she said, "Oh, it's an old church hall, 1912, and then now used somewhere else, modern, right?" So this is outside Llanelli, between Llanelli and Pontedilys, believe it. And it's the Llanelli people, I put this on one of their groups, and they don't know where this is. And it's like a straight road, but it's just a farm track as far as I know. And it's just me wandering, and Pugwash is with me, right? So there's that one. Now, I know it's hard to tell in this image, but it was absolutely pouring down with rain. And we were in Carmarthen on a Friday back in January. And I walk up this slipway towards these two guys, right? I walk right up to them. What do you think they did? They opened the door for me to go in. But I didn't want to go in. I just wanted to ask them permission to take their photograph. And they stood their attention. I said, no, you just chat. You have a fag, whatever, and I'll take some candidates. So it was a very gloomy day. It's portrayed in this image as very gloomy, right? I thought I had another one, but that was the best one, that was, right? Then this one, just around the corner in Carmarthen. Now I thought he was in a bookies, but his clothes, he was a bookshop. But he's on the fag here, is right on the corner. And I can't remember, I did this effect, in a black and white effect that I do sometimes, right? I've never shown this in competitions, it's just for the talk, right? Now, again in Carmarthen, right? And they've got little alleyways, lots of alleyways, because Carmarthen is a medieval town, guys. And there's a castle there, not much left of it, but there's a castle there. And there's a big plaque, and it shows you a painting, how it looked years ago. Now, I don't know where it is. I think my sister's got it. But my ancestors owned 5 ships, right? And they ran them they came from Cornwall, but they ran them out of Swansea and Talbot. But there's a photograph of one of my ancestors, a captain, on a ship in Carmarthen on that river. And the photograph's taken, it says the studio on the street, but I no longer got it. Now look at this guy. Now, I'd never met this guy before or since. I called it the Happy Cobbler. He's taken in Tenby Market. And one of the members in my club, we're all spread all over the place, and he lives in Tenby. And we went to Tenby for a Friday morning shoot, and followed by lunch. And he's took me to meet this cobbler. And my nephew was in a horrendous car crash in March, yeah, and he nearly lost his life. He had his leg amputated. And this gentleman was on the phone to my brother-in-law that morning. And when I met him, there was a connection. So I've never used this one. He was just smiling. It was very difficult to get detail in his white hair because there was a skylight above him, right? So this is the one I took. I called it the Long Walk. And I've just used it now twice. It had 19 for me in a battle at my club win, and I had a 17 in a monthly for it. So I've done a lot. It looks straight, doesn't it? But I have done a lot of work on this to get it looking like that. One nitpick was to crop it tighter to that white building, on the left, and I did crop it, but I did think about cropping it tighter, but I left it, right? So that's Tenby, and that's where my sister and her family live. So this is outside Tenby. I don't know, I know guys listening, you're all over the globe, right? But actually there's a place, right, miles outside Tenby, and it's called Landshipping. It's an odd name for a little hamlet, isn't it? And I remember my sister saying, there's nothing there to photograph. We are photographers, guys. We always find something. And this was on the way. This was on the way. I stopped by a barn. I'm drawn to old barns. I got out, I looked at it, nothing there to photograph. It was a graveyard. It was pristine condition, nothing there to photograph. Then there was a chapel. How many chapels do you know that are open? I went in, the door was open. I couldn't believe it. And it was minute, guys, this chapel, right? Minute. And there was a book, you know, in there telling you, you think it was a visitor's book, but they're saying, oh, you had a great night last night, innit? We had 80 people, you had 80. You couldn't swing a cat in there. Anyway, the next time I went there, I put this on the Friends at Tenby Camera Club. I said, I'm in your neck of the woods. None of them knew where I was. My brother-in-law said, you're not on a tourist track, Gareth. I said, I'm not a tourist. I'm a photographer. I wander. So the next year I went there again. And this time I met the lady who looks after the building. She was a lovely lady, 80 years old, right? And I really put the, you know, she was vacuum cleaning. She's in the countryside. She's a farmer's wife. And I walked in and she jumped out for skin, guys, right? Anyway, we got talking. She said, you want to come and see the vestry? Vestry? This is a minute building now, right? It's outside. She took me in. I won't believe it. There was a mannequin doll dressed up in a Welsh costume, right? She just said, you fill your boots, take your photographs, which I did, right? And so it was great. She said, if you ever come again, knock my house and I'll give you a key to go in. Now these hats, right? I've only got this photograph tonight, but there was men's hats on one side, ladies' hats on the other side. And they were from the 1920s and 30s when people came into church, chapel, from the farms, fields, and all men put their hats one side and all ladies the other side. And they keep it going. Now they said, we're not a chapel anymore, Gareth, we're not a chapel, but we have gospel groups here, right? Now, most of you have heard of Eva Cassidy from Canada. Now, her brother has been over here in a gospel group playing. You know, it's unbelievable. The pews are still there. There's just not much room to dance or anything. Back to Tenby. This is March this year. Now this, if you know the Gower, there's a walk down to a big beach called Newslade Beach, right? And I walked down, but when I walked back, this guy had opened up his, he must be a logger or something like that, a carpenter or whatever. And I didn't see it when I walked down, and when I walked back, all these logs are out. So you can just see him there, and he's got his hand to his mouth. Not licking his fingers, guys. He's got his pencil in his mouth. That's what carpenters do. Anyway, he had clocked me before I clocked him, but I'd never spoke to him, right? So this is a color image. Only got 5 color images in tonight, and this is one I've played with. Now, if you've ever been to Rosilly, Worm's Head is in the background. This is the wreck of the Helvetia, right? And I took Mike Martin there last year to photograph this wreck. And this is when this photograph was taken. Pugwash was me, and it was raining, right? So I created this, and I printed it as a small print. Then I did that for tonight's talk, right? Black and white, but not really fussed on that. So I did that one. So I much prefer this one, right? Now, Penwilt in the Swansea Valley. If you don't know it, if you're ever in the area, you have to go. It's not as sort of great as Cwmorth in North Wales, but it's still there was a ruined street there, right, of houses all ruined, but health and safety are kicked in and keep out and all this. But if you're willing to jump over the fence, you can, right? But I don't bother jumping over there anymore. I get my shots elsewhere. So this is taken from the old railway station, and look at it, blanket mist, and look at that. What next? And then we do that. That's just being creative in black and white. Now this is taken a few years ago, right? I just wanted to show you the difference. It looks like a house, guys, isn't it? South Wales Cave-in Society now own it, but years ago it was a pub. It was the Penwilt Inn, and nicknamed the Stump. Now you can walk through there, right? It's a public right of way, and in July, I'll have to put, in July, I was there lately on Fridays now, since lockdown really, well, COVID, anyway, I've been going out for sunrise. So two of us met at 5 to 5 in the morning up there, right? And we had glorious light on it. The sun came out, oh, it was great, right? But it just looked, oh yeah, it's a nice pretty shot. It's not how I would see it, So the next one, guys, is that one. See, it's a different, this is different, a different perspective. This is December last year, right? Blanket mist, right? On the right, we've got some white little buckets and things, and they've got to go. They've got to be cleaned up. This is your flat image in a raw image, nothing done to it. Now the gate is, we opened it on purpose. It's a bit wishy-washy on the left, right? With the raindrops on the lens, right? So what do? We do that. Let's go back. Yeah, there was a sign in the middle of that gate. I took that out, right? Then I did that. I quite like that, didn't it? I quite like that, right? Then I did that. And that was my final image. But in between making them, a few months went by. It's like sometimes you hit your head against a brick wall and think, oh, I got to put it to bed and come back to it. And I come back to it a few months later, and I made this. I put it onto Flickr, and I got 3,000 hits in 3 days. I couldn't believe it. I put it into a salon, and it didn't get in. So far it's mixed. It hasn't got in salons, only entered it once. So I put this through Silver Effects, and I played with the sliders. Now I had a lot of dirt on my sensor, as you can see. I started to clone it out, and I thought, I gotta give up. There's too much to clone. So I thought, make it grungy like that, and I've printed it, and the print works a treat, right? And see all them white buckets, they've all gone now, aren't they? And there's another one on an elevated hill, same day. You can see the path you walk down. All them white things are got to go, right? So there's that one. And there's the finished one, right? So I've printed this one. But look at that sky. Let's go back, right? Look at that sky, bland. And that's just, I'm not putting the sky in, I'm just working on that sky and pulling it out, right? Now that's just behind me, that is, right? Just turn around and you take that, and don't see it straight away, but on your bottom left is a wooden fence. And one of my friends cloned it out, but you could see all the cloning. So I've just done it really tight and burnt it down a bit, right? Now, I've just put these in tonight. I put this color one in purpose. One of the ladies asked, Emma, I think, asked about my camera of choice. This is the first day out, Emma, with my new camera. And we went to one of the World War II plane crash, right, a Wellington bomber, and they were all Canadian, and they all died instantly in the Brecon Beacons. And it's just there and back is a 7-mile walk, and Neil in front here, he's the leader. We're all members of the camera club, and some of them were out of their comfort zone, but we all went up at the end of September. So Suzanne there with the big lens, right, you can see her. So I was just falling back behind them. I had loved to have put my middle lens on, my 300, and got in tighter, right? But that's on maximum limit, that's on my 80mm. Now I knew what I was going to do to this, guys, right? But I wish I could have had a longer lens on, right? But this, here it is, right? There's the finished image, right? I've just cropped it, and if I'd done this on my Olympus E5, I wouldn't have got this as good, you know, with the crop. It's a massive crop, see? So I didn't, from that, I did think of leaving the rocks in. I thought, no, I got to go in really tight and do that. So I've called this, and then there were 6. I could call it follow the leader, couldn't I? But and then there were 6. Move this. Now on the far right, the lady with the ponytail, that's Bonnie, but her real name is Po, and that's her husband, Sam Cheng. They in our club. And then we got 2 ladies, women, Suzanne, Tracy, Paul in the middle, and Neil. So I call it, and then there were 6. So I'm hoping this will do well for me. It's a new image. Now this gentleman is in Aberdare Country Park, and he was part of a steampunk, but he was an old biker, he was, right? I just got a portrait of him, right? Now, leaving Aberdare Country Park, everyone turns right to go, right? But what if you turn left? It was a single track road, you know. What if you turn left? I went left, I hit a dead end, guys. But on my right was this. And there was a padlock gate, and I'd love to have got in closer, right? Anyway, I thought, well, let's take the bull with the horns and go and see the farmer. I went in, I saw the farmer's wife, and she gave me the key to the padlock and let me go in and get closer. But look, I got that beautiful pylon cable going across the sky, haven't I? I've only done a quick edit, right? Just to see, you know, he's still there. It's a quick edit, right? Just to see. I think this is an old rail track building, right? Now, this is outside Glynneath and on the road to Banwen. And there's an old Austin van in an old wooden shed. In the summer, you can't get in there because it's just so much foliage, you know. But in the winter, you can get in there, right? So this one, guys, won the best monochrome print last year in the Welsh Salon. Now, I've been calling it Fence and Tree, but when I looked at my print recently, it's called Solitude. Now, Lorraine, one of your members, right, who I know, judged this. I won't say his name yet. He judged this, and I think he gave it 16. And at the end, because I know him, he said, how did I do, Gareth? And I said, well, not the one who gives 16 to is one best landscape and a box of photo speed paper. Oh, you weren't liking it. I said, don't worry, that's what happens. But what he doesn't know is, then later, after he judged it, it won best print in the salon. And that's Rod Bird. Lovely guy, Rod, right? He's from Aberdare. Anyway, I did this effect in Silver Effects. It's very simple. This is not far from the National Brecon Beacon Mountain Centre, right? And there's this tree that's been there years, right? But although there's the photograph and there's that little trail and it's a stream it is, right? And it runs all the way to that sheep. I walked around that. I left Pugwash in the car because him and sheep don't get on. So I walked around this tree to look for the best position, you know, and then I came back to the starting point. That's the best position, right? And then I made a sepia, right? Now we're inside a derelict cottage, and to get that photograph, I was using tripod. I couldn't get a tripod shot of that. So I had to position my camera onto the windowsill, although I didn't have a bean bag with me, I put something like that underneath the lens to prop it up to get that shot, right? And then there's the farmer. He was a young lad living here, but this is his mother's jacket. And we were rearranging the room. We'd had permission. We weren't trespassing. We'd had permission to go in, right? And then boots. I was shooting for a theme competition for footwear. Got that one. And there's the farmer's running shoes when he was a young lad, right? So I've got 9 prints of this made up as a body of work. And now this is Brecon Jazz Festival last year. And again, panning, because I'm watching this gentleman. I want the walking stick separated from his body. And luckily, I got his back leg kicked up. And there's raindrops hitting the flagstones, right? Now there's this one, hands. For my colour talk, she's in red, right? And she's got red false nails. And see one index finger, that is silver. And I've been told by Kylie Ann Martin, Gareth, it's a fashion statement, right? So I didn't know that. So I done that in silver effects, right? And I've been quite successful with this creamy effect. So let's take the stage further and do that. So I've printed this. I've just had the print back as a mount, and we'll see when prints start going, I can enter it. So this is Feet of the Road. He was a traveller, and I asked him permission to photograph his feet in Roath Park in Cardiff. And this got in last year's Welsh Salon. This is Dapper. This is a steampunk. And this has done well for me in the mono competition, right? In Blaenavon, that one was. Now this is in the Black Country Museum, and I'm slightly elevated looking down with a long lens. He's chatting to his friend. Another judge said, he's not looking at you. But no, he wasn't. He was talking to his friend. So I re-edited this one, and I did that. Both silver effects, but a re-edit. So this one is in Beamish. Now I called it father and son. I have no idea if they are, but it's never been successful. And I think maybe, look how that guy in the background, he's out of focus. He's not sharp, but look how prominent he looks. You know, he's got that father figure, like, doesn't he? You know, he's very prominent. This is Cheryl with the 2 fingers up, and I can't remember their name now, but they're both members of Morriston Camera Club on the Severn Valley reenactment weekend, and that one too as well, right? And they just there to pose, you know, for you. Now we're on a train, very dark there, isn't it? That's June or July, and I had my wife's 36 to 360 Olympus lens, Zootio, and it's f5.6, and you can see it when I printed this. You can see all the noise in it and the lines. It's not too bad here tonight. So this is Porthcawl. Now I see that you got Dave Mason coming up, and you just mentioned my name to Dave. We've become buddies. He's been to my camera club. He's coming soon again, and we were going to meet on this weekend. It's a Elvis Presley weekend in Porthcawl last September. Dave was down for it, and I was there, but we never got to meet. And I don't know if this guy is actually council worker or not, but it's outside the men's toilet and ladies' toilet. Now this is Merthyr. Now my wife is big into union, right, with work and that, and it was the Merthyr Rising. So all the unions got together and did a march, and I went to photograph them. But after that, then we went for a spot of pizza lunch, you know, on a Sunday, and then walked. She went shopping, and I just stood there and let's see what comes my way. And this little child came my way. I've never put this in competition because you know they say, it's 2 halves, it's 2 pictures, you're liking it. So I've just called it Sunday morning. Now, this is a ruined chapel, guys. Now, if you've been to Tintern Abbey, go above it. St. Mary's, this is. It's only 10 minutes walk uphill, not far. You park in Tintern Abbey car park and then walk up to this. Apparently it was burnt down, either 87 or 97 it was burnt down. But it's a lovely place to be and walk around the graveyard, right? I've made a print of that one. This is a church, St. Athan's Church, and somebody said I should have put a book on the left, but I like it as it is. Now, this is a 500-year-old house, guys, in Bridgend. I know it looks modernish, but outside it's definitely not. And apparently the Preservation Society say it's from the monks, right? Now, there's a castle nearby, very close to it. The castle is called Newcastle, but it's in Bridgend, right? And this house is 500 years old, and they took us around, you know. If the joke is that we shut on Fridays, Gareth, but we only can come on a Friday. We shut on Fridays. We'll give you £50. Oh, I didn't hear you properly. We're always open on a Friday. So they were open. So I made this sepia image. Now this is called Dingy Washroom. Now we got converging verticals. A friend of mine, and he's still alive, he's called Phil 5x4 Thomas. He hated converging verticals. Everything had to be straight for him, right? So this was highly commended, believe it or not, guys, in the Welsh Salon. And I've taken several toilets and bathrooms and won awards with them. Right, I get you worried now, innit? Now this is the bay, next one up from Dungeness. I don't know what it's called. It's not Dymchurch, not that far, but it's an image I found. I lost thousands of my own images from 2012 to 2015. I lost a lot. So this is one of them that I saved. There's Dungeness, cooked it. And there's Vigil. Vigil is protecting all them sheds behind for whatever blows that down. It's psychology, guys. Get inside the judge's head and give them a story before they create their own story. Another one that's highly commended in our salon and won me a box of panoramic photo speed paper for best landscape. So what am I going to do with panoramic paper? Took it to work and they cut it in half for me in the guillotine. So this is in Kent. So Lorraine, this is in Kent, and this is Lyd. You've got Lyd on sea, but this is Lyd, and it's the old railway station. You can't get into it, it's all fenced off. So this is shooting through the fence, right? And I did an 1800s effect on it in silver effects, right? This is Penalta, an old mine that my father-in-law used to work at before 1965, right? Now, this is just before lockdown. I took 3 shots in one whole day, and I stopped outside this house and I saw this rusty shed and I thought, oh, that's the best thing I've seen, so I photographed that. So I thought it suited for tonight's talk. I thought it looks good in color, but I thought it's nice in black and white too. So this is Countersbury. There's a dog hotel there, guys, right? Dog hotel. And we had stayed there. I'd seen this photograph years earlier, but the people who took it would not tell me where it was taken. And I came across it by pure luck. I thought I died and gone to heaven because I always wanted to photograph this. But it was a flat 5 o'clock shoot in the night, you know, flat. So I've just played in this in June. I've done color images, but you only see 2 black and white lights. So that one, and I cooked it, that one, right? There, we come into the end now, guys, right? That's how I present my prints, right? I've been doing so-called miniatures for a long time now, right? And they work. And there's that one, right?
Thank you very much, Gareth. I mean, I wrote down quite a lot to chat to you about. I'm not sure where to start, really. I just thought, as everyone said in the comments all the way through, was that the background and the discourse and the dialogue you've got behind all these pictures are what makes this presentation work.
Lorraine has said you, I will have to find it then, Gareth. Is that the Lyd Railway?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's in Lyd, that is.
It is, Gareth.
I think I photographed that 2012.
Oh, I'm sure someone in Kent will direct me.
So, go on, Gareth, sorry.
Mark, I'd never think of half of these images.
How do you go about taking them then? Because there's, I mean, they are. I mean, I looked at them and I just thought, I didn't even see half of what you saw in these pictures that work so beautifully, you know.
I don't know. It's the CNI, Mark.
Yeah, it is. It is. But often it's just the detail, isn't it? It's, I mean, you've got some grand pictures in there as well, and in the stories behind them really make them work. It's that narrative. It's that, it's that background, isn't it, that makes them all work. But then you throw in these just individual images that are just, sort of spectacular in their own right.
Somebody said, or two of them, Great Stone. Do you mean Great Story or?
No, Great Stone. Great Stone is the place that you photographed, I think.
Is it? Where's that?
That's down in Lyd, that kind of area.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so does anybody have? I mean, before we sort of end tonight and serve a formal thanks, does anybody have anything they want to ask Gareth before we head off tonight, guys?
Hello, this is Sharon from Dublin. I just wanted to ask. I took a picture that was very complicated in a place called the Long Room, which is in Trinity College. It's actually in part of the Star Wars movie, I believe. But the grain in it was unbelievable, and I've been quite delighted to see quite a lot of grain in the pictures tonight. And as this gentleman is a judge, I'd love him to judge my pictures in the future. But what is an acceptable level? I've been trying so hard to get rid of grain and minimize it and have it looking so sharp. And so what's allowed and what isn't?
It's all on the individual judge.
Yeah.
It's all on the individual. And if you read my story in the PHBE news about it, I tell them that grain and that should be accepted in the digital age. It's quite controversial. And I try to push it down their throats a bit. Yeah. No, I've always liked grain, and I'm judging tomorrow night, right? I'm judging 94 images, and one of them has got a lot of noise in it, but I'm giving it 18 because I'm going to say we like grain. Why can't we like noise? Because it is a strong image, but it's quite noisy.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Sharon, actually, because I've got a point about the grain, about I would never have considered using grain to that extent, but all these images work so easily,
What Terry Meakin used to say, right, and I always remember this as a joke line, is grain the size of elephant's balls. Right?
Yeah, we'll avoid that. We'll avoid that.
We'll avoid that one, aye.
I won't sort of repeat what people have said in the chat. You can have a look at that in a second, Gareth.
I'm looking now.
Yeah, some really lovely comments, and also, as usual, I've had sort of half a dozen private messages as well. Hazel Lindsay Sturrock has said it's fantastic. 2 or 3 people dropped out earlier, but they wanted me to pass on more thanks to you, out of the commitments as well.
It can be, when I was giving this talk live, guys, or the in the making talk, I'd finish by 9:30, no problem. But when I'm doing Zoom and I haven't got a watch in front of me and it's dark here, I seem to go on and on.
We love it. We love it. No, don't stop. Don't stop. Okay, guys, as I said, I've recorded all this. In fact, I'll stop it now. I just sort of formally say thanks very much to Gareth for coming.